Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a massive news dump of 15 global headlines from June 23, 2026, and distilling them right here on screen into a clear, visual state-of-the-world tour. You know, I absolutely love breaking down complex news days like this because we get to cut through all the noise. There's no biased punditry here, just a structured, direct look at the facts and the exact source material shaping our world today. Okay, let's dive into this. To make sense of everything without getting overwhelmed, we're going to follow a thematic roadmap today. We'll hit geopolitics and global tensions, domestic policy and politics, international crises and justice, and we'll wrap it up with culture, tech, and sports. Starting off with Section 1, Geopolitics and Global Tensions. We're diving right into the Middle East crisis, which is definitely the highest-stakes global friction unfolding right now. So, immediate diplomatic friction has erupted. Literally just a day after we saw some real progress at the Lake Lucerne summit. There's this stark divide between Washington and Tehran on the details of future atomic monitoring. Basically, the two sides are entirely at odds over what compliance following this interim truce actually looks like in practice.
President Trump anchored his stance with a timeline expectation, stating that nuclear inspectors will enter the country at an, quote, appropriate time. But Iranian officials are flatly denying that they ever agreed to any early compliance measures at all. They're completely rejecting that premise.
And the president actually doubled down on these geopolitical maneuvers during a recent campaign rally over in Pennsylvania. He took a moment to praise the state of the economy following this interim framework, but he also threw out a massive, highly controversial proposal, a threat to levy unilateral U.S. transit fees on Persian Gulf shipping traffic if a final agreement falls through. And this brilliantly illustrates the immediate pushback we're seeing from Capitol Hill. Reflecting deep, bipartisan anxiety over the scale of the Middle East conflict, the U.S. Senate actually stepped in and passed a rare resolution. It's aimed directly at limiting the president's autonomous executive war powers regarding any ongoing military activities involving Iran. Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds into domestic policy and politics. We're looking at the push and pull of executive power, state power, and corporate power. Take a look at this staggering number right in the center of your screen. $8.4 billion. That is a monumental Pentagon contract modification that was just awarded to Lockheed Martin. The objective here is to dramatically and rapidly ramp up production capacity for Increment 1 precision strike missiles for the Army and to procure advanced early operational assets. Meanwhile, back in Congress, lawmakers advanced a sweeping legislative overhaul heralded as the most significant housing package in almost 20 years. This bipartisan housing affordability package implements strict regulatory caps specifically designed to limit Wall Street institutional firms from mass purchasing single-family homes. At the same time, it updates rural housing programs. It's a really fascinating look at how legislation is attempting to balance the power between corporate and consumer interests. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can efficiently view three major, distinct federal rulings side by side to see how the judicial branch is shaping policy this week. First, an appeals court delivered a victory for hardline border strategy by restoring the expanded fast-track deportation system. Second, a judge blocks states from banning SNAP recipients from buying soda and candy, basically determining that only Congress holds the authority to define food criteria, not individual states. And finally, a federal judge threw out high-profile Justice Department subpoenas named Minnesota Governor Tim Walz amidst a state program fraud probe. Shifting our focus back outward to the global stage, we're on to Section 3, International Crises and Justice. We're looking at global conflict and accountability. Looking at this global map at the highest levels of global governance, the UN Security Council adopted a sweeping new, binding resolution. This creates a framework ensuring that anyone committing crimes against UN peacekeepers globally will face unified international prosecution. Yet, on the ground, the reality is incredibly harsh. In West Africa, security officials confirmed a devastating raid in Bakos, Nigeria, leaving at least 20 people massacred. And over in East Africa, Sudanese forces are mobilizing deeper into a grueling Blue Nile campaign, which is seriously fracturing already fragile humanitarian relief supply routes.
I want to focus your attention on this single digit on the screen, the number 8. This serves as a numerical pivot point to the conclusion of a major cross-border security trial here in the U.S. Closing out a major federal cross-border security trial, judges handed down multi-decade prison sentences to these 8 individuals. They were convicted of terrorism-related charges stemming from a highly coordinated shooting attack at a Texas migration hub.
Moving on to our final section for a bit of a cool down. Section 4, culture, tech, and sports. We're talking society, rules, and grids.
So the crucial point here is how this fundamental shift completely removes the complex history of medical red shirts. A high-profile NCAA panel officially approved this 5 seasons in 5 years eligibility model. It gives all Division I student-athletes absolute clarity. You get a concrete window of 5 seasons of active play within a strict 5-year calendar block. It literally rewrites the rulebook on collegiate player eligibility.
Now for a slightly quirky breather. If you're planning a trip to the National Mall anytime soon, you should probably know that the iconic Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool has been completely drained again. Literally just weeks after an initial maintenance cycle, park officials had to initiate emergency remediation because the pool was plagued by sudden peeling paint and rapid algae growth.
We'll wrap up today's explainer with a situation developing in Washington state that perfectly frames a massive modern dilemma. The Spokane City Council just passed an emergency ordinance imposing a sudden 1-year moratorium halting all new building permits for computer data centers. The reason? Massive, unchecked strains on their localized power grid capabilities. The digital world requires immense physical power. So what does this all mean? It leaves us with this provocative question to ponder. As local grids halt new data centers, how will the physical limits of our cities shape the boundless growth of our technology? Thank you for learning with me today, and keep questioning the world around you.